the Musk influence around the world. We've spoken about this beforehand, and Elon in particular, and it has never been more evident than in the last few weeks, if you like.
Yeah.
I want to look first of all at the US because it was almost that nightmare before Christmas, wasn't it? And basically, Elon managed to influence Congress with people on social media hailing him as President Musk. What's your take on all of that?
Well, that's not fair. I mean, it's President Trump, and it's not Elon's fault that people do things like that. That's the last thing Elon would want. I mean, he's not elected, and he doesn't expect to be addressed like that. But I mean, it's a mark of respect. They're trying to show him that they think of him highly, I suppose. But basically, I don't. That's the last thing Elon would want. And he's there to do a job, and he's going to try and do it. So there's no glorification or whatever you call it there. Yeah.
Yeah, I think in any event, I mean, it's the tremendous influence. And as I say, we've spoken about this beforehand. He, apart from being the richest man in the world, he's probably the most powerful at the moment, isn't he?
Well, yeah, not really. I mean, obviously, he's still tech. The politicians still rule the roost. But obviously, it's very good that we've moved into a new type of dynamic where technical people are not being ignored anymore. It was a strange thing in my country as a young man, when I learned that when I joined the Public Works Department as a junior engineer many, many years ago, the director of the department at the time, the director general, as they called him, called me into his office, and he was very good to me. And he said to me, no, that as an engineer, you only rise to a certain level in the public works. He said, I've only got 1 year of high school, and I'm the director general of the public works. So in other words, the admin side rises to the top, the engineers rise to only a level, and yet the whole thing is about engineering. So it's wrong. So, but it's nice to see the technical people getting a bit of a chance for a change, because things will be much better.
Yeah, no,
Much better.
No, you're absolutely right, and this is all to do with his new position, the in the Doge, in the DOG, the Department of Government Efficiency. He basically opposed this bipartisan spending deal to avoid the government shutdown, and his intervention was seen as a test run, if you like, for what the future is going to be like. Well, what was your take on that?
Um, just give me that again. The what?
Oh
The
no,
what?
so it's basically was seen as a test run, but this is how he's going to operate in the future about controlling government efficiencies and so on and so forth. And I saw that wonderful thing that he posted of half a rainforest of documents, wasn't it? Which he whittled all the way down to something far more manageable.
Yeah, well, I was a city councillor, and I was absolutely amazed. In engineering, documents are pretty thin, generally speaking, and they actually refer to rather big things. And then when I years ago got into like the city council of Pretoria, I found every second day or 3 times a week, I'd go down to the desk that I was allotted in front of everyone, and I had a pile in front of me about a foot high each time of A4 papers, and that was what we had to go through. It was silly. And of course, technical people try to simplify things. But, at the end of the day, it's the politicians who have a more difficult job. What I learned in, the sort of politics was that 90% or more than 90% of what you do is very humdrum. It's not exciting at all. It's not about World War III and, sending in forces and doing all that kind of stuff. It's all humdrum. It's about siting toilets and cutting back curbs and things like that, and painting outhouses, and stuff like that. So it's really 95% of the time very extremely dull,
Yeah,
So in that respect, you have to admire politicians because they sit with that 95% of the time.
yeah.
And we think they're in there having a big old chat about, serious stuff. Forget it. It's all incredibly boring.
Yeah, oh, no,
You know,
no, you're absolutely. And do you think Elon would have read that whole document, or is he going to be getting people briefing him?
how Elon what?
Would he have read that document himself, that huge
Oh,
document, or would he
oh,
get?
no, no. In this case, yeah, no, no. In this case, he would have done speed reading. He's very good at reading, obviously, and he would have speed read the whole thing. If he didn't do it, he would have got 5 of his top guys and said, "Peace for you, peace for me, peace for you, peace for me," and he would have said, "Go through that thing my way." If he couldn't do it, you see, 1,500 pages. To read a 1,500 page book takes me 2 weeks or something like that. I mean, unless you want to wind up with neck sprain, eye sprain, and everything, and the nearsightedness afterwards. No. So he would have had to do something. But he would have gone through that whole thing and combed it out completely, because it was obviously filled with rubbish. And this technique that they've been using for years, apparently, as we've now, I knew about it, and it's now been highlighted again, that the last time they did this, they presented a 3,000 plus page document 2 days or 19 hours before its close of Congress for them to decide on, filled with expenditure that they would have to approve for the most ridiculous things on earth, and giving them no chance whatsoever to query anything. I mean, this is the height of maladministration, the absolute height of maladministration, and tells you that you're not being ruled by an elected government, you're being ruled by a bureaucracy.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. It's a tactic that a lot of lawyers use as well. If you're coming up, you're going to get a
bureaucracy.
Yeah,
it's the unelected bureaucracy ruling the country, and that's probably happening in England. That's probably happening here, because at the end of the day, the elected guys, as I said, they're presented every second day with reams of stuff to look at, which half the time nobody really should have to do that. You should be able to decide on little things like that. But anyway, so I would imagine that Elon has combed out probably 2/3 of the expenditure. Yeah. And certainly hasn't combed out relief to farmers, would not have combed out relief to not drought victims, flood victims. He wouldn't have combed those things out. That's the last thing that Elon combed out. So this nonsense that he would have done something like that is nonsense. It's just nonsense.
Yeah,
anyway,
absolutely, yeah. And that's what I love about this part of the show, is that it gives a chance to sort of unpack all the sort of separate the fact from the fiction, because the media love to distort things, don't they? And we look at that sort of stuff. One of the basic principles is Trump has refrained himself from publicly backing the government shutdown, allowing Elon effectively to take the hit and the heat, if you like. And this contrasts with his first term, where he directly embraced the shutdown threats. Do you think this is the role that Elon's going to continue to play, that he's basically going to be this great political asset for Trump?
Well, yes. I mean, obviously, it's not that Elon is so bright or super bright or anything. It's a way of thinking. They've had one particular way of thinking all this time, and now there's an opportunity to think in a different way and not be in trouble for doing it. And in that respect, Elon is leading the way. He's showing you can say no. You can say no to silly things, and up till now, many people are sort of, afraid to do that. What I discovered in the world of large corporations and also, the government, and of course, and applies also to large banks and large corporations and places like that, they start becoming like a civil service. And really, you go up in merit based on time that you've spent there and so forth. And if you do anything that goes on your record as having been wasted or something wrong that you did, you actually don't get promoted. You get promoted for doing nothing. And if you're a person who never did anything, you're likely to wind up at the top, if you know what I mean. And that's not right. So now they're bringing a new type of thinking. Now, as I said before, Elon is used to employing people that he selects from people he's already selected. So it's probably a 3-level selection process to work for him. And that's not what you can't do that in the government. The government, as the Prime Minister of this country once pointed out to me, has to include everyone. They have to take everyone into account. They can't say to somebody, because you haven't had the good luck or whatever it is to complete your A levels or your GCEs or whatever it is, that you can't get a job. You can get a job with us, and they give them jobs, and you can't always expect them to be super geniuses. Unfortunately, this type of thing, not with those type of people, I would say, but with a lot of these other people who don't, as Elon has pointed out, don't even come to their office for a year. They haven't been into the office. Government employees haven't been into the office for a year, and they're picking up a check every month. This is wrong. And they, you could honestly say that the efficiency of those departments is probably 10%, if it is that. And then, so what we'd be looking at with government departments, I would say you're not going to get your 90% efficiency like like Elon's businesses. You're going to get 50%, which would be great if you got 50% efficiency. Great,
Yeah.
that would be great.
No, yeah, absolutely, and I think it is. It's something which we should look at around the world. In the UK, we could benefit from that as well. But Trump is basically he's viewing Elon as a sort of useful catalyst, if you like, and he sort of
Yes,
can be his attack dog for Trump, which sort of compares to the previous situation when you had aides like Steve Bannon. So it's more of a sort of logical, strategical use of Elon's skills.
yes. Well, you see, Ben and those guys are political, and they are fighting political fights. Elon is probably the worst politician you could ever get. He would go in to primary. I would love to be an MP in England. It would be great, feather in anyone's cap. But I mean, he would be one of those guys who sits in the backbench for the next 5 years, and you don't even know what his voice sounds like, because he's not that type. You see, to walk to the front and do the sort of Oliver. What's that famous British guy? Oscar Wilde, something. Be so very, or Mark Antony. He's not a Mark Antony type. So he would, he put his foot in his mouth the first time. No, but it's quite good, really, because in the technical world, you generally don't have much to say. And Elon he used to say, don't come to meetings that are scheduled in, the various companies that he's had, and it's got, if you've got nothing to say, just don't come. Don't worry about it. And so it's a different way of thinking, really. Yeah.